An aircraft carrier never travels alone. It can't. A 100,000-ton floating airfield with 5,000 crew and 75 aircraft is the most valuable non-nuclear asset in the U.S. military. Losing one would be the greatest American naval disaster since Pearl Harbor. So every carrier moves inside a fortress, destroyers on the perimeter, a cruiser coordinating air defense, submarines beneath, aircraft above, electronic warfare blanketing every frequency. The Carrier Strike Group is the most protected military formation on Earth. The escort ships, the destroyers, and cruisers that form the outer ring exist for one purpose. They are the wall. Anything that wants to reach the carrier has to go through them first. On this morning, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy sent 14 fast attack boats at that wall at full speed in broad daylight, with no attempt music at deception, no flanking maneuver, no tactical sophistication, a straight line. 47 knots directly into the teeth of 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. 12. Welcome to Warfare Signal, where we break down the most critical military operations shaping global power. The carrier was the USS Harry S. Troop, CVN-75 Nimitz class, deployed as the centerpiece of Carrier Strike Group 8 operating in the central Persian Gulf, approximately 55 nautical miles south of Iran's coast. The escort formation that morning consisted of 4 warships arrayed around the carrier in a standard defensive screen. To the north between the carrier and Iran were 3 destroyers, the USS Bulkley at the center, the USS Forrest Sherman to the east, the USS Farragut Music to the west, each an Arleigh Burke-class Flight 2A, each carrying a 5-inch gun, Mark 38 chain gun, .050 caliber mounts, Phelan CIWS, SM-2 standard missiles, ESSM Harpoon anti-ship missile, and a full Aegis combat suite. To the south of the carrier, the trailing position was the USS Lacey Gulf, a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser serving as the air defense commander. Above the formation, an E-2D Hawkeye orbited at 25,000 feet. It's a APY-9 radar scanning 350 miles in every direction. 2 F/A 18F Super Hornets flew combat air patrol at 20,000 feet. An MH-60R was airborne on anti-submarine patrol east of the formation. This was the standard defensive posture with multiple layers, overlapping sensors, coordinated weapons, a formation that had been refined through decades of Cold War doctrine, Gulf War experience, and continuous deployment since 2001. At 06:51 hours local time, the Hawkeye detected a mass surface contact emergence from the Iranian coastline. 14 vessels departing simultaneously from Bandar Abbas, the IRGCN's largest naval complex. Formation tight cluster transitioning to line of breast as they cleared the harbor approaches. Speed 25 knots and accelerating. A course southwest direct bearing toward the Carrier Strike Group. The Hawkeye's radar operator tagged all 14 contacts within 8 music seconds. Track data flowed automatically to every ship in the strike group via Link 16. Every Aegis display, every CIC screen, every bridge monitor, all showed the same picture simultaneously. 14 boats coming straight at them. At 06:52, the strike group commander, a rear admiral aboard the Truman, Music was briefed. His assessment took less than 30 seconds. 14 fast boats on a direct intercept from Bandar Abbas was not a training exercise. IRGCN training sorties followed established patterns, published notice to mariners, predictable speeds, known exercise areas. This was none of those things. He ordered the strike group to condition 1, full battle stations across all 5 warships. Over 8,000 sailors went to combat readiness simultaneously. He also made a decision that would prove critical. He ordered the 3 northern destroyers to accelerate to 28 knots and move to an advanced intercept line 20 nautical miles north of the carrier. The destroyers would meet the IRGCN boats as far from the Truman as possible. Maximum standoff, maximum time to engage. At 06:54, the contacts reached 40 knots. Line of breast formation now fully developed. 14 boats spread across approximately 3 nautical miles of ocean heading south in a line. The electronic warfare teams, MUSIC, across the 3 destroyers detected active radar emissions from 4 of the MUSIC 14 boats. Frequency analysis: Nasser 1 anti-ship missile targeting radar. 4 boats with missile capability. This information flowed to the Admiral in real time. 4 potential Nasser. 1 launches from a formation of 14 boats, closing at 40 knots, now 28 nautical miles from the carrier and 12 nautical miles from the advancing destroyer screen. At 40 knots, and 12 nautical miles translates to approximately 18 minutes, but the boats were still accelerating. At 06:55, radio warnings were broadcast from all 3 destroyers simultaneously, English and Farsi. 3 ships, same message, same frequencies. Iranian naval forces on intercept course. You are approaching a U.S. carrier strike group defensive MUSIC zone. Alter course immediately or you will be engaged. No response. At 06:56, the contacts reached 47 knots, a maximum speed for Paycap and Boghammer class craft. Line of breast formation maintained. No maneuvering, no evasion, a straight line at MUSIC maximum velocity. This was the detail that baffled the tactical action officers on all 3 destroyers. Swarm tactics worked through deception, flanking, and overwhelming individual defensive arcs. A straight-line approach against 3 prepared destroyers was tactically incoherent, and the boats were presenting themselves as targets in the simplest possible engagement geometry. At 06:57, the contacts crossed the 8 nautical mile mark from the destroyer screen. The Admiral authorized weapons free. The 3 destroyers engaged simultaneously at 06:58. The USS bulk center position targeted the formation center with its 5-inch gun. The Aegis fire control system computed targeting solutions for the 4 boats in the center of the line of Brest. First round fired at 7.5 nautical miles. At this range, roughly 14,000 meters, the 5-inch shell has a flight time of approximately 15 seconds. The Mk-45 Mod 4 can fire 20 rounds per minute. Against a target moving at 47 knots, the fire control system must predict the target's position 15 seconds into the future, accounting for speed, course, wave action, and the boat's likely evasive maneuver upon hearing the incoming round. First round, miss. The shell detonated 60 meters behind the target boat. The boat didn't alter course. Second round, impact. The shell struck the 3rd boat from the center left. Direct hit. The boat was obliterated. MUSIC. At 7 nautical miles, the explosion appeared to the Bulkley's bridge watch as a flash followed by a rising column of black smoke. 3rd round, near miss on the center boat. The blast wave at 15 meters was sufficient to capsize a fiberglass fast boat. The boat rolled, lost speed, and went dead in the water. The USS Forrest Sherman, eastern position, engaged the right flank of the line at Brest. 5-inch gun, inch. First round at 0658. Miss, second round, hit. The rightmost boat, identified by its radar emissions as one of the 4 missile-armed boats, was struck in the forward section. The Nasser 1 launcher detonated sympathetically. The secondary explosion was massive, visible from the Bulkley, 8 nautical miles away. The USS Farragut, western position, engaged the left flank, 5-inch gun, 2 rounds. The first hit a boat at 6.8 nautical miles, and the second round hit another boat at 6.5 nautical miles as the formation closed. In the first 90 seconds of engagement, before any IRGCN boat reached a range where its machine guns could be effective, 5 boats were destroyed, MUSIC, and 1 disabled. 6 of 14 neutralized at ranges where the boats couldn't shoot back. This is what happens when fast boats charge in a straight line at destroyers with Aegis fire control. The math is merciless. 5-inch shells reach out to 13 nautical miles. Machine guns reach 2,000 meters. The destroyers had over 10 nautical miles of killing field where they could fire, and the boats could not. At 700, the surviving 8 boats reached 4 nautical miles from the destroyer screen. They had maintained course and speed throughout the 5-inch barrage. Not one boat had turned away. Not one had deviated. The Mark 38 chain guns on all 3 destroyers engaged simultaneously. 25mm high explosive rounds at effective range. So 3 guns converging fire on 8 targets spread across a 2 nautical mile front. At this range, the chain gun's accuracy is lethal. 1 boat was hit and destroyed within the first burst. Another took hits and lost speed. The formation, such as it remained, began to fragment as boats spread wider to avoid the converging music fire. At 0701, the IRGCN boats finally reached their effective music weapons range. Machine gun fire erupted from multiple boats. KPV 114.5mm rounds and DSHK 12.7mm rounds directed at the 3 destroyers. Rounds impacted the Bulkley's superstructure. Several struck the forward stack. 1 burst hit the bridge wing railing. The Forrest Sherman took hits along the port hull. Superficial against the destroyer's steel construction, but the destroyers were firing back with everything. 5-inch guns in rapid fire. Chain guns sustained. 50 caliber mounts engaging targets of opportunity. At 0702, the Bulkley's Phalanx, CIWS, activated against a boat that had closed to 600 meters on a near-collision course. The 20mm Vulcan cannon shredded the boat in under 3 seconds. At 0703, the 2 Combat Air Patrol Super Hornets call sign Warhorse flight descended from 20,000 feet and made their first strafing pass. The lead jet came in at 400 knots, 300 feet altitude, 20mm cannon blazing. 1 boat was hit and destroyed. The wingman engaged another. One of the remaining missile-armed boats with an AGM-65 Maverick. The missile tracked perfectly. Impact. The Naser 1 launcher detonated in a secondary explosion that sent debris 200 feet into the air. At 0704, the Seahawk helicopter, redirected from its anti-submarine patrol, arrived with Hellfire missiles. It engaged 2 boats from behind, boats that had passed through the destroyer screen music and were heading south toward the carrier. 1 Hellfire each, both destroyed. And these 2 boats were the closest any IRGCN vessel got to the carrier, approximately 18 nautical miles. They never had a chance of reaching it. At 0705, 7 minutes after the first 5-in round, the engagement was over. The remaining IRGCN boats, 2 from the original 14, turned north and fled at maximum speed toward Bandarabas. The destroyers did not pursue. The Super Hornets tracked the retreating boats to the territorial boundary and returned to patrol altitude. At 0708, ceasefire across the strike group. 12 boats destroyed, 1 disabled, and adrift. 1 recovered by Iranian forces, 2 escaped. None of the 4 missile-armed boats had launched. All 4 were destroyed before achieving firing lock. 3 by 5 in gunfire, 1 by the Maverick missile. No Naser 1 missiles were fired. Damage to U.S. forces was minimum. The Bolton sustained 8 machine gun impacts, all superficial. The Forrest Sherman sustained 5 hits. The Farragut sustained 3. No systems affected. No weapons degraded. 0 sailors wounded across all 3 ships. The engagement was, music by any measure, a massacre. 12 boats destroyed, 0 effective return, a kill ratio that defied any reasonable tactical calculus. And that was exactly the problem, because the IRGCN didn't send 14 boats in a straight line at 3 destroyers expecting to win. They sent them expecting to lose. And the intelligence community spent months trying to understand why. And 3 theories emerged from the post-incident analysis. Theory 1, compellence failure. This assessment held that the IRGCN intended the boats to turn back at the last moment, that the charge was a show of force, a demonstration of willingness to confront U.S. naval power. But something went wrong. The shore-based commander either failed to issue the recall order or the order wasn't received. The boats followed their last instruction, approach at full speed, this until American weapons made the question irrelevant. This theory was supported by intercepted communications that showed a burst of confused radio traffic from Bandar Abbas between 0659 and 0703, including what analysts interpreted as an attempted recall transmission that overlapped with the first 5-in impacts. Theory 2, martyrdom operation. The attack was deliberately suicidal. 14 boats and their crews sacrificed to create a dramatic narrative. Footage of burning wreckage confirmed American aggression against small patrol boats. propaganda material for domestic consumption and international sympathy. This theory was supported by the fact that Iranian state media had camera crews prepositioned at Bandar Abbas harbor to film the boat's departure. Footage of the sortie was broadcast within hours, presented as evidence of brave defenders sailing to protect Iranian waters. Theory 3: distraction. The 14 boats were a decoy while the strike group's attention was fixed north. Every sensor, every weapon, every pair of eyes pointed at the charging fast boats. Something else was happening elsewhere. A submarine transiting, a mine-laying operation, a signals intelligence collection mission. This theory was never confirmed. But analysts noted that an Iranian Kilo-class submarine normally homeported at Bandar Abbas was not detected by the strike group's anti-submarine assets during or immediately after the engagement. Whether the submarine was in port or at sea remained unresolved in the after-action assessment. The Admiral's report summarized the engagement in clinical terms. 14 hostile contacts approached at attack speed. All were engaged within defensive parameters. 12 were destroyed. Carrier operations were not affected. But in a classified annex, he added a paragraph that circulated through CENTCOM for months. The tactical outcome was decisive, but the strategic question remains unanswered. An adversary willing to sacrifice entire squadrons for unknown objectives introduces a variable that no defensive doctrine can fully account for. We can destroy every boat they send. We cannot determine why they sent them until after they're gone. The Truman continued operations. The destroyers were inspected for damage. Minor paint loss and antenna adjustment was all that was required. The strike group rotated home on schedule 3 months later. And in the intelligence briefings that preceded the next carrier deployment to the Gulf, one slide was added to every presentation. It showed 14 red dots on a blue ocean arranged in a straight line heading directly at 3 blue triangles. The title of the slide: Why? The briefer's note at the bottom read, "We don't know. And until we do, assume the next line will be longer." The sea turned into a graveyard of steel that morning. Not because Iran didn't know what would happen, but because knowing and stopping are two different things. And the graveyard's lesson isn't about firepower. It's about intent. The boats are replaceable. The crews are replaceable. But the willingness to throw them away, that's the variable that changes everything. Stay vigilant. Stay informed. I'll see you in the next